Former President Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 37 federal criminal charges in the classified documents case. In 2 months' time, Trump is making history as a former president by appearing in a courtroom once again to face criminal charges. It's another chapter in Trump's tumultuous tenure and what has followed. He was twice impeached in office, and upon leaving office, he has been charged in a hush money campaign finance case in New York.
An investigation still underway for his effort to retain power on January 6th. All of this as he remains the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination.
All eyes were on the former president today. And from the minute he stepped into the courtroom to being surrounded by supporters, and then on his plane to New Jersey, where he spoke to supporters again tonight.
Our Rose Schmidt has been following this historic day. She joins us now from our live center. Rose, with some of the key moments.
Amy, at a fundraiser tonight in New Jersey, former President Trump framed the indictment as politically motivated, calling it election interference and political persecution. He also laid out what will likely be his legal argument.
Whatever documents the president decides to take with him, he has the right to do so. It's an absolute right. This is the law. And that is something that people have now seen, and it couldn't be more clear. They ought to drop this case immediately because they're destroying the country.
This afternoon, the former president faced a judge for the first time on charges stemming from his handling of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago resort. He pleaded not guilty to 37 felony counts. He's the first former U.S. president to face federal charges. He was booked along with his aide, Walt Nauta, who will be arraigned later this month. No bail was set, but the judge suggested that prosecutors make a list of witnesses who the former president shouldn't talk to as the case goes on. Today was quite a spectacle in Florida. Law enforcement shut down freeways to clear the path for his motorcade to arrive at the courthouse in Miami. Supporters and opponents lined the streets, and after court, the former president stopped at a well-known Miami Cuban restaurant to shake some hands. Then it was off to New Jersey. As we inch closer and closer to 2024, it's likely that this case will be playing out in the middle of the campaign cycle next year. So how does that factor in? Here's what an expert says.
One of the best defenses for him to the federal case, for example, would be if he wins and becomes president of the United States. Then there's all sorts of things which can or cannot be done to a sitting president.
Former United States Attorney Tom Heffelfinger says for that reason, he expects the defense will aim to slow things down in an effort to resolve the political contest first. In March, former President Trump was indicted for a separate case in New York State on charges related to hush money payments to an adult film star.
They will both proceed in tandem, in parallel. Think of it as just going down the road together. But eventually, one of them is going to have a trial date set, and that trial date will have precedence over the other unless the parties agree on which case they're going to try first, or one of the parties brings a motion to have that case being tried first.
In this federal case, the former president is charged with violating the Espionage Act, obstruction of justice, willful retention of national security information, and more. If convicted on all counts, he could face decades in jail and millions in fines. Amy?
All right, Rose. Well, two Eden Prairie